Hello everyone. In this video, we'll be discussing about TCP socket programming in Java. So basically, socket programming used for creating network-based application in object-oriented programming language Java. So how we can create a network-based application? So we need two kind of application we have to create. One is server-side program, then is client-side application we have to create. So for this in Java, there is a package called java.net package. So using java.net package, we can able to create the network based TCP socket programming application. So in order to create the server program, so there is a predefined class called server socket, and which is used to create a server side application. And we have another class called socket class, so which is used for creating a client application. So once we create a server socket and we have to make a connection by calling, there is a function called accept method. So using that function, we can make a connection between server and client. Once you do the connection between server and client, then we can go for data transfer. So data transfer is the process of reading and writing. So for that we need a Java IO package for reading the data as well as writing to the socket. So there are two streams used here for data communication. One is input stream and next one is output stream. The server output stream is connected to the input stream of client, and the client output stream is connected to the input stream of the server. So once you complete the data transfer, we can close the connection. So during this data transfer, if you want to get the input stream and output stream, we have to use two functions. The functions are get input stream for getting the input stream and get output stream for getting the output stream object. So this is a TCP socket programming model. So first we need to create a server program. So inside server program we have to create a server socket and we have to bind with one unique port number so that the client will identify the server application using that port number. Then we have to make the server to wait for the client request. For that we have to call accept method. This accept method will connect the client application and it returns a connection socket. So using connection socket we can send data to the client. Similarly we can receive data from the client. So in the another side, in client program we have to create another program called client. So in client program we have to connect to the server application using a class called socket. Inside socket class we have to give the IP address of the server side application. So here the IP address can be a local host or it can be any IP address of a server side system, and the port number you have to give to the server side port number which we have bind here. So after this connection is established, we can go for data transfer phase. In data transfer phase, we have to use output stream and an input stream. Here you can see the output stream is linked with the input stream of client. The output stream of client is linked with the input stream of server socket. So this is how the connection socket will be created. So this is a TCP socket programming model. So here there are three steps. First one is connection establishment. The next one is data transfer. The last, finally we can close the connection. So this is what happening when we execute the program. So first we'll be executing a server side application. In server side program we have a IP address localhost, some port number will be assigned. Now in the client side we'll be executing another program called client program. So the client program make a request to the server using the localhost and that's the port number. Now when the server is already waiting using the accept method. So when the client make a request, the server will be connected to that client client application and it returns a connection object. It returns a connection socket object. Using connection socket object we can make a data transfer. So now let's see how we can implement using a by creating a server side application and client side application using Eclipse IDE. So in Eclipse IDE, first we have to create a project. So for example, TCP Socket Programming project. So click finish. Now the project is created in the left side. Here we have to create two programs. One is server. So first we'll create a server program. Include main method. Then we have to create client program also. So right click the src folder, add another class client, include the main method. So now first we'll complete the server side program. So we first open server side program. So inside server side program, we need to import the package for including the server socket. So first step is you have to import java.net package. Then to read and write data in socket, we need a IO package. And if you want to get input from the user, we need a util package. Scanner class we have to use, right? So to get input, we can use scanner class by using util package. Now here, so most of the functions in TCP Socket programming generate exceptions. So we have to use try block and catch block. So it is a good practice to handle the exception. So when there is any error occurred, it will display the error. So and the program keep on continuing. So there is no problem with the program execution. So now here we'll see how we can configure the server side program application. So first we have to create a server socket. So server socket will create new server socket. So inside new server socket, we can give the port number. For example, 5000 is a port number. Now the status of the server is waiting for the client. So now to make waiting, we have to create a socket, another socket, which is a exactly server socket. Using this ss dot, we have to call accept, right? So now now we have to actually this message should come after this. So first we need to create a server socket object, bind to a port number 5000, and we have to make the server socket to wait for the client connection. After once a client is connected, it returns a server socket. Now we have to wait for the client, right? So now I think this is actually correct only. So here only it's waiting for the client. Once we accept, it is actually connected. So the server is connected to the client. So after executing accept method, it means we can ensure that the client server is connected to the client, right? So after that we can send data, right? So we can send data to the client. So meanwhile we'll see the client also. I'll open the client program. So in the client program also we need to import the package java.net. Then to read and to write to the socket and read the socket, we need a IO stream, right? So we have to import java.io.star, right? So here inside we have to first we have to start with the try catch block. So inside we can print the exception if any exception occurs. Okay. So now coming to the client, so as I told already, we need to create a socket object, right? We need to create a socket object. Socket client equal to new socket. So this socket we have to bind with the server and the port number. The server is a local host. So local host is a the server which is running in our system locally. In every system there is a local server is running. The port number is 127.0.0.1 and the port number configured for the server is 5000, right? So in the previous Java program we have created the server socket in 5000, right? So we have to bind the port number 5000. So after that, once this execution is success, we can display that client is connected. Client is connected. So now the connection phase is completed. So we have make the request and the connection will be accepted here. The connection will be accepted and you'll be getting the message server is connected. In the client side, we'll be getting a message client is connected. So now we have to go for data transfer. So now in this example, I'm going to demonstrate how to send data from server to client. So I want to send data from server to client. Now let's see how to send the data from server to client. So first we need to take the data from the user. So for that we need a scanner class. So create scanner class. Then we have to write the data. After getting the data from user, we have to write the data to the socket. So in order to write the data to the socket, first we need to open the stream from the socket. So in order to do that, we have to use print writer. So print writer is a highly optimized stream for writing a character oriented data. So we can create a print writer. Inside we have to keep the socket object. We have to keep the socket object output stream. Here the socket object is this one, not this one, not SS. The server here, actually after accept method you'll get a connection stream, right? So that is actually the socket. So you have to use server dot get output stream. So now using this print writer object, we can write data to the client. So write data to the socket. So once you write data to the socket, in client side we can read the data using the socket called this one, the client socket. Using this client socket we can read the data, right? So let's write some data. So while writing data, I want to write more multiple data. Okay, I want to run the program infinitely. Okay, so we need to create one infinite loop. So we can create a while loop. Inside while loop, we can get the data from the user. So for that, we have to ask enter the data, right? Right. So here one small mistake. Okay. So just will ask enter data and use print. So now the data will store in a variable data equal to sc dot next line. So after getting the data, we have to write the data in a socket. So to write the data, already we have created the socket stream in PW, right? So we have to use PW dot print ln function we can use. So which will print the data with a new line also, since it is a print ln function. Okay. Then followed by we can call flush function. So flush function immediately write the data to the socket and clear the buffer. So that is the use purpose of using flush function. So after this, the data will be written to the socket get output stream. That particular output stream, the data will be written. So from that output stream, we have to read the data in the client side. So now let's go to the client side. So in the client side also we have to write the code for reading data, right? Read data from server. So here first we need to make while infinite loop, because the server is sending so many data, right? So we should be ready to receive all the data. So we have to run infinitely. And now before creating this infinite loop, first we need to get the stream object from the socket to read. So for that, the recommended way of writing is the recommended way of using the IO stream is we can use buffered stream. So the reason for buffered stream is the buffered reader. The reason is buffered reader has external buffer and we can read more data, and similarly we can also read line by line also we can read. So that is our purpose of using buffered reader. So I'm going to use buffered reader. So when you use buffered reader is a character oriented stream, but socket is a byte oriented stream. So in order to convert the byte to character, we need a input stream reader. So we have to use input stream reader. So inside input stream, we have to keep the socket input stream object. So socket is here is client, right? So we have to use client dot get input stream. The client dot get input stream, and finally you have to keep semicolon, right? So this line is actually why I'm using this input stream reader is like basically the socket will accept only binary data, byte oriented data. So the byte oriented data we have to convert as a buffered reader character oriented data. For that you have to use input stream reader. So the input stream reader automatically converts the bytes to the character. So the data will be available in the BR. So from BR we can read line by line, right? So now here I'm going to read the data and store it in a variable data BR dot read line. Then we can display the data. You can say that data from server. The data from server equal to the received data we can display. So that's all about how to display the data in the client side from the server. Server is sending a data and client is displaying the data, reading the data. Right. So this is a program for client side. First we need to create a BR buffered reader and keep the input stream client socket input stream object inside a input stream reader, so that the byte data is converted to character data and it will be stored in this buffered reader buffer. From the buffer we can read line by line. So that is the advantage of using buffered reader. So now it's all everything is done, right? So now let's see how it is working. First we need to execute the server side program. So the look at this diagram here. We need to run the server program, then we have to run the client program, because server should be available to make the request, right? So first we need to execute the server program. So go to the server program. So this is a server program. So I'll right click, execute the server program. So now the server program is started and it is waiting for the client. Now you can see it started and it is waiting for the client, and you can use detach. And so after doing that, actually now here I want to execute two programs parallelly, right? So we need the console view. We need to create one more console view. We have to create before creating one more console view. So what you have to do is we have to pin this console to this server program. You have to pin this console to server program. So there is a pin option is there. Then you have to go for open here. You have to click here and create a new console view. The new console view is created in the right side, and right click detach. So when you right click detach, it will be coming like this, right? So now click inside. Now it look like this, and we can execute both programs, right? So now the server is running here. The same server is also running here also, uh, but here since I have pinned the console, it will be pinned to the server program. And this console view is actually for common console view. You can run any other program. So I'll go to the client program now. So in the client program, so this is a client, right? So we can right click, run Java application. So now look at this. When I run the program, okay, so when you run the program, here we are getting server program, and here just you have to modify this view, and here you can see the client, you can see, right? So now the pin this particular window to client. Okay, so now the left side is server, right side is client. So let's see some function, some data will send. So if I send hi message, the data is go to the client application, and we can keep on sends multiple data. Look at this, you can see the data from server is coming. Okay, hello. So data is coming in the right side, right? So just you have to create a new console view, and you have to pin one console view for a server, another console view for client. Okay, so this is how we can send data from server side application to the client side application. And the data here, you can see the data is received here, right, in the clients. Okay, so that's all about the TCP socket programming for sending a data from server to client. So if you want to send data from client to server, you have to just change the logic. Okay, suppose if you want to send data from client to server, what you have to do is sending means what, like reading the input and writing using print write, right? So this code you have to copy to the client side, and This code you have to copy to the server side. Okay, just if you just exchange the code, you can send data from client to server, and the client in the server side we can read the data. Okay, so this is about how to create TCP socket programming for sending data from server to client. So this is a server program, and this is a client program. Okay, so that's all about TCP socket programming.